Hi, this is Jason from PreVeteran. Welcome back to our PreVeteran YouTube channel. This week we're going to talk about our new article, which is titled Control Your Mind, Control Your Military Transition. And this refers to really getting specific about those thoughts that are in your head that are probably not helpful as you gear up and get ready and when you're planning for your military transition. However, before we get started, subscribe to our YouTube channel and also follow us on our LinkedIn company page. Okay, with that behind us, let's get started. Okay, you've heard it before from veteran advocates and others before you, but it's worth repeating. Transition is going to be tough. It's going to be challenging. You're going to struggle. Here's the question. Is all of that true? And at PreVeteran, we argue, no, it is not true. And the reason why we say that is because we think the biggest obstacle standing between you and your post-military success are those thoughts that are rattling around in your head. Now, you're asking, Jason, how do you know that? Well, let me kind of tell you. So first off, I had these thoughts in my head very personally for my unique experience as I was getting ready for my 2014 retirement from the Air Force. So in 2011, 2012, it was very acute. And I had a lot of these messages that were in my head that took me down different rabbit holes, wasted a lot of time and energy, and had me kind of spinning my wheels. So maybe that's something that you might be identifying with. So that's the first thing, is my personal experience. My next experience is after I left the military and I had a successful transition, I began looking back and kind of reflecting on why mine was successful and others was not. So what I ended up doing first is I looked at all the research that was out there that was published by the VA, the DoD, different think tanks, different universities, and other organizations out there trying to inform the TAP, or the Transition Assistance Program model. And what I ended up doing is getting frustrated pretty quickly with that after going through different articles, because it looked like they were recirculating the same old thing and arriving at the same conclusions, and obviously there had been no better outcomes over the last 30 years. So frustrated with that, what I ended up doing was looking elsewhere to other disciplines to try to inform why things were so challenging. So I went down the road of sociology, anthropology, psychology, and then ended up on cognitive neuroscience. Now, cognitive neuroscience is a fancy way of saying or explaining how one thinks with your brain. What made it most interesting to me, I think, is that I think there's nothing more individual and profound and fundamental than how your individual brain operates in the external environment. And I wanted to know more about that. So what I did is I hired a neuroscientist, and I worked with her for a year. She was wonderful, and she taught me the basics behind cognitive neuroscience. However, after that year, what I found out is mostly cognitive neuroscience, like other academic disciplines, was very generalized and was made for practitioners. So I became frustrated with the different modeling out there, as it felt too generalized, overly generalized rather, and it really wasn't applicable and didn't help me kind of solve the transition assistance problem that we were looking at right now. So I wanted to make something more unique and individualized. And that's exactly what I did. So frustrated with those models, I created my own modeling. And that modeling has now become the centerpiece of our PreVeteran ecosystem and runs through all of our programs. So let me kind of walk you through that real quick at a higher level right now to explain why I feel so confident about why this model works, because I can tell you from this model that we've created what those thoughts are in your head and why they're not helpful. So when you kind of boil everything down in our PreVeteran cognitive neuroscience modeling, what you find out is you have what I would call a unique memory segment in your mind. And what I mean by that is, in cognitive neuroscience, we're talking about how you think. And you may or may not know it, but your memories or your lack of memories have a significant impact on how you process information. So the spectrum of memory that you have in your head is enacting quite a bit of chaos in your mind right now. Let me explain it very specifically. So on one side of the memory spectrum, you have no experience transitioning out of the military, obviously. On the other side of the memory spectrum, you have a plethora of military-related memories that may or may not be applicable to the private sector. And if you kind of take a step back and look at that, neither one of those is going to be super helpful and make you not aligned with the private sector. So let's talk about the impact of having no memory at all to start off. Here are a few examples. So Since you have no memory for leaving the military or departing out of the military, what happens and what most people describe as the inability to think, and your cognitive cycle stops. But what ends up happening is your brain kind of picks up the inability or it understands that you're unable to think through things, and it gives you a whole bunch of good ideas. And I say good ideas jokingly because they end up having you go down a bunch of different rabbit holes, going down using different time and energy resources to go seek those out. But some specific examples are, should I do something completely different when I leave the military? Another example is, should I get yet another degree to be competitive? And you probably already have multiple degrees anyway. The next is, do I need to get my PMP? And if you kind of take a step back and look at that, those are just widely divergent kind of views. They require a lot of time and energy resources to pursue them. So you're going to feel like you're spinning your wheels, and that's exactly, frankly, what you're doing. Okay, let's talk about the other side of the memory spectrum, where we talk about you have a plethora of deep military-related memories. There's a couple very specific examples here. One is you're going to try to carry over your generalist attributes to an employer. You think that an employer wants a generalist leader for some reason in their organization, and that assumption could not be further from the truth. Private sector employers want a very specific person with a specific skill set to fill a specific role in the organization. Another example is looking back, reflecting on your military time, saying, hey, I can just figure out this transition thing, even though you've never done it before. And it's this kind of hubris that kind of gets you in a little bit of trouble because you've never done it before, yet you think you can work your way through. And not understanding that your situation in the military, where you have your support, you're making money, you have a job, you've got medical and dental support, is intact. When you leave the military, specifically if you're separating, which is the majority of people, you lose that. So you lose a little bit of the safety net, yet you've carried that mindset over to think that that's going to be applicable to the private sector. The bottom line we get to here is these memory spectrum, your mind, is your biggest obstacle to your post-military success. So guess what? That's the bad news. The good news is PreVeteran can help you. And the simple reason is because we use this proprietary cognitive modeling for all of our programs, which means we're able to show you with a lot of precision those different thoughts that are in your head. And once you now can identify them, you can then diminish them and then remove those obstacles. And then after that, we can put in very good training to make sure you understand the real differences between the public and private sectors, and then put you on a very efficient, clear path to success with far fewer problem areas, which is a good thing for everybody because we really want to make you the most successful transitioning military member we can. So if this approach makes sense to you, what you could do right now is visit our PreVeteran website. What we recommend you do if you're not familiar with us is go to our About page, and then there's a News Press kind of pull down bar. If you click on that, that'll tell you, it gives you all of our articles that we've published to date, and it'll give you a good sense of what PreVeteran is all about. The next, if you're going to be an employee, we recommend you download the 5-step guide to getting the job you want after the military. This will put you in the right mindset. And then if you want to move to the next step, you can go to our courses page, and if you can't sign up for a course now, you can be put on the wait list. Okay, we've reached the end of the video. We hope you really enjoyed and understand why controlling your mind is the best, fastest, and most efficient way to making sure that you have a successful transition. If you want more generalized information on PreVeteran, besides the website that we already referenced, we do have a LinkedIn company page that we'd like you to follow as well. Okay, we have new content every week. We hope you enjoyed this video, and we'll see you again next week with our new video.